Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to MELO's Conversations for Success, Pathways to Sports and Entertainment Marketing Management. This is our fourth installment in this series, and we're happy to have two panelists today. Our first panelist is Professor Tamica Clanton. Tamica teaches Business 320, Principles of Management here at SPS. She is in strategic communications, and she's a marketing professional by practice, with a love for live entertainment and sports. She has worked for global brands such as the Radio City Christmas Spectacular, Cirque du Soleil, NFL, and the Washington Wizards in the NBA. Her focus is on building successful marketing strategies and brand partnerships to fuel revenue growth and brand awareness. Professor Clanton, would you like to share anything else about yourself?
No, I think you covered it. Happy to
Great.
be here and looking forward to having a good conversation with Sam.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm also very pleased to introduce our student panelists tonight, Robert Sam Westman. Robert goes by Sam, which I've just learned, and he is a Celtics fan, avid Celtics fan. He's currently pursuing the Bachelor of Science in Business here at CUNY School of Professional Studies. His management and entrepreneurial experience include running an online coffee business, which is very interesting, supporting various not-for-profit organizations, operating a successful Airbnb, and connecting people with intellectual disabilities to their communities. Welcome, Sam. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So just a few housekeeping notes. We will take questions via the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to enter them into the chat anytime throughout. I'll interject with our questions throughout the session. I'll be sharing some information about MELO and some upcoming MELO events as well in the chat. And we'll meet until about 7:30 tonight. And thank you all so much for joining us. We are recording so we can share the participants with those who could not attend live. And with that, I will pass it over to Professor Clanton and Sam. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. How's everyone doing? Hi. All right, so we have some questions here. Can I just hit it off right out of the park?
Yeah.
What are the duties of a sports and entertainment marketing manager?
So a broad definition that I would give is that a marketing manager organizes and manages marketing campaigns to raise awareness and generate demand for the product. So the team, the league, the artists. So again, that's a broad definition. So it's things from designing, managing, and evaluating marketing campaigns, managing budgets, collaborating with creative and marketing agencies. So it pretty much runs the gamut. The hierarchy of jobs is like you're a marketing coordinator and then you're a manager, and the manager role really sets the foundation if you're looking to be a marketing executive one day within the sports and entertainment role, because you're sort of seeing the big picture and you're the one that's getting a lot of the things done. You're the doer of it all. And so I always say that like the best leaders at one point in time knew how to do it all. And so you see how all of the pieces connect. Yep. So in a nutshell, that's what a marketing manager does.
It sounds a lot like a manager in general.
Yeah, exactly.
You said some marketing, I don't know, I was picking up on the idea of strategies, and I'm sure there's different kinds of strategies to go about for different brands and different markets. Mm-hmm. It's probably a big job of a manager, I would think.
Yeah. And I would say the strategic role usually comes about at like the marketing director role level or the VP level, where that person is responsible for setting the short and long-term strategy, again, of that brand, of that artist, of that venue, of that sports league or team. At a manager role, it's sort of entry level and you are the doer. I was the marketing manager many, many years ago, and I was the one that got stuff done. Mm-hmm. And my boss was this is the plan. Now I need you to execute on it. So you're an executor,
sure.
More or less.
Wear many hats, when to call, who to call.
Yes.
That phone contact list is very important here.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. I would imagine that it'd be difficult, especially in sports. Say you were, you have a superstar on your team. and you're going to be branding around him or her. What happens if he hurts himself and he's going to be out for 3 years? And you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, and that happens. It happens a lot around free agency and when players get traded at the last minute. So when I was at the Washington Wizards, that was during the 2011-2012 season. We were dealing with a lockout, but we were also dealing with a rebrand. And if you're familiar with the Washington Wizard colors, at the time it was like teal and blue and white, and
I remember those. Yeah.
The new owner, Ted Leonsis, felt like the team being in Washington, D.C. should reflect the district. And so it was red, blue, and white. And so we had to do a 180 in terms of rebranding all of the collateral, all of the signage in the venue, all of the marketing collateral, which is obviously a very, very big undertaking. And during that time, we definitely had players that we had plastered all across the building and venue. And, the season starts, trade deadlines, and players get traded, and you have to go in and you have to go in and change that stuff out. So you do keep a line item in your budget for updating collateral and venue signage. Yes, that was after Gilbert Arenas. I saw someone ask a question in the chat. I got to miss all of that fun stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I would imagine you have a very big team. It doesn't sound like.
Well, it depends. I would say it depends, especially, and I'll speak towards the NBA because I worked for an NBA team, depending on your market. So, if you're in New York and you work for the Knicks, yeah, you probably have a healthy marketing department with 10 to 12 people dedicated to marketing and tons of resources. But if you're in a smaller market like an OKC or, Utah, the team could be much smaller and much nimble. So it just depends on, how important leadership sees marketing.
Correct. Yeah.
Sometimes marketing is about driving ticket sales, driving full season tickets, but sometimes it's just about branding, right? Like the LA Lakers, they have LeBron.
They're pretty established already.
Right.
Celtics
very
too.
Successful heritage. Right.
The marketing is not going to sell tickets. It's the players and the team.
Right. Yeah.
So marketing could be
so you need
a little more
to come in and tell the story. Sorry to cut you off. But
no, it's cool. Yeah, I'll do it too. I apologize. It's all right. There's a fireside chat. I've maybe had one or two too many.
Right. It's a fireside.
Cool, right?
I think I should have brought a glass of wine instead of my water, but it's all good.
I have water. Cheers.
Cheers.
So I guess to continue the conversation, we got number 2 here, and I'm sure this.
No, Sam, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you off just for a second because we have a question from the audience.
Oh, cool. Hey,
David asked, was that after Gilbert Arenas?
Yeah, and so I did say that my time and such was after Gilbert Arenas. So the rebranding took place after Gilbert Arenas because I believe Ted Leonsis, don't quote me, but I believe he bought the team in 2010. So I don't know. Gilbert Arenas might have still been there when he bought the team, but when I joined the team, he wasn't there.
Thank you. We also have a question from Cam. Interesting question. How did or do you see strategies change or changing after the Black Lives Matter movement?
Oh, well, for example, you'll see it is changing, right? The leagues are taking notice. And, on the NFL side, because I think that's probably the most recent example is, the NFL has a partnership with Rock Nation Sports where they do programming of the halftime show. And then there's also some sort of relationship of doing things in the community that is Black Lives Matters focus, for lack of a better word. But, you'll see the NFL for the Super Bowl, they have the national Negro national anthem that was sung. And I feel like that's happened over the last 2 Super Bowls. You have efforts in regards to in the end zone, it says end racism. There's a month where players are allowed to wear certain cleats that can have sort of their personal social messaging. So leagues are taking notice and they're doing things. I always struggle with what is intentional and impactful versus what is performative. And so I think that's still yet to be seen, especially when on the NFL front, where you've got a league that is predominantly African American men, but there are a handful of African American coaches. And even with the Rooney Rule, which states that if there's an open coaching position, an African American has to be interviewed. There were tons of head coaching jobs open this season, and I think one or two got picked up or were filled by an African American. And you have coaches that are very well trained and prepared for these roles, and they're just, the opportunities are not being extended to him. So to your question, the leagues are making efforts. I just think more effort and work needs to be done, but something's better than nothing, and you got to start somewhere.
Can I interject a little bit
Yeah.
on that? Something I've noticed recently, and something I've noticed in the past sort of year and a half with my work, is the topic of inclusivity, an inclusive environment, an inclusive curriculum, an inclusive society, just overall. That it's inclusive. I mean, that's how it should be, no matter what. And culture and race and sex and creed and all of that falls under that umbrella.
Yeah. I mean, it's 2023 and we live in a very global society. Like, I'm here in New Jersey, but can be connected to someone in Abu Dhabi or in, Brazil, right? Like we're global citizens, but are closely connected. And I think brands, companies, leagues, artists, those that lean into diversity and inclusiveness sooner and authentically are the ones that will be successful in the long run versus ones that choose to be exclusive.
Exactly. I mean, if you can't get with it, you don't get anywhere. You have to, and the first ones to do it will pave the way, and people will follow, and it's a healthy way to follow. I mean, it's the way to do it.
Yeah.
And all of the movements have shown that, and it's all the same trend.
Yeah. And I teach principles of management, and there's a section where we talk about diversity and inclusion. And if you are a for-profit company, there's tons of research that shows that bringing people of different walks of life to the table increases your bottom line. And so as a CEO, and I'm a for-profit company, and I have to, report to stakeholders or shareholders who are wondering, where their investment is, I'm always like, the numbers don't lie, it's right there. So, tons of work to be done, but we're having these discussions, and hopefully it leads to progress, meaningful progress.
Sure. I mean, New York is a big city, and it's a world leader. It's if they start doing it there, people are going to take notice.
And it's so funny. New York is literally 3 miles as an island. But it feels massive.
I tell you, Manhattan is the same size as the island I live on.
Oh, as
3 miles wide and 14 miles long.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot of farms where I live here.
All right. What's up next on your list?
Oh, we got more. How have management and leadership practices in this field evolved in the last 5 years?
I would say that the practices have evolved in that technology has obviously played a part in that. And so it's sort of traditional marketing versus digital marketing, and a digital first go-to-market plan. And so what I mean by that is that if I'm putting together a marketing plan and I'm thinking of tactics, I'm thinking of like, okay, what can I do digitally? What can I do from an SEO perspective? What can I do from a search perspective? What can I do from a paid and an organic social perspective before I even consider doing anything in print? And so I feel like because of that, and because of being in a digital age, as a leader, you have to be nimble, you have to be comfortable with fast-paced change, and comfortable to experiment, and comfortable maybe doing something out of the gate where your competitors are not doing it. And so sometimes a lot of brands want to be the first to do something, which is great, but then also you want to make sure it lands well and there's no blowback or anything like that.
Or you
So
lose, you lose money. You
yeah.
hurt your bottom line, and
Yeah,
there's
and
a balance there.
potentially fans or things like that.
You
So
have a huge budget. It's one thing to be innovative and put out digital NFT trading cards.
yes, but also understand. It's interesting you bring up NFT. Like, what's the value of that?
Oh,
And
it's an incredible value.
is it
Everything's going that way.
sustainable? And
How
what
we're all going to vote.
Oh, well, perhaps that's good so that everyone can vote
No,
and not take time off to go to some place to vote. So,
yeah.
yeah, so that's what I would say for that
Does it
one.
have value? Do they mean, I don't know. I never bought them. I got the newsletter on my phone, but I never bought any.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's yet to be seen. And there's a lot of things. There's always that new shiny toy, year over year. But it's like, okay, well, how does that apply to my business? What value will that bring to me versus something that I know that is tried and true?
Right. And that sort of moves into the next question, I suppose, with the social media platforms. How do they support marketing for sports and teams and leagues, and what do they have to offer? And looking
Yeah,
forward, looking forward in 5 years, what do you think they'll offer?
yeah. I mean, I think the social media platforms done right, and I think the NBA teams do a really good job with having the social media team, social media manager embedded with the team, and it allows people to go, my background's entertainment, allows people to go behind the curtain, go behind the scenes and
Sure.
see the team, on the bus going to the venue, or on the plane flying to the next city, or, at shoot around, or seeing what they eat on game day and what their
What are they
ritual
wearing?
is. Yeah, what are they? I mean, the
I mean,
NBA
that's a huge one in the
really
NBA.
into what, yeah, they have it actually sponsored by various brands in different cities, which I think is really funny, because if you remember, I don't know, early 2000s, David Stern like wanted the players to be in suits because they were
Yeah, I kind of do remember that.
they were business people, and how it's evolved, and now they're wearing high-end fashion that you just saw
Yeah,
on the
it's a
runway.
runway. It's a runway. It's I think the Celtics have it. When I subscribe to it, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Wow,
Yeah,
I
the
would never
women's
think he
do
would
it as
wear that,
well.
you know?
Yeah, yeah. So it's sort of it's funny. It's interesting to see how things have evolved, but with technology, right, and with innovation and such. And so I think there's a lot of teams and brands that use social media really well to bring in casual and super fans and take them behind the scenes and sort of build that fan engagement and loyalty. My favorite is, and I saw this a lot on TikTok, but there's a lot of things that get created for one platform and live on another. But
Mhm.
the social media manager would like put up a question, and as like you saw this a lot on the in the NFL, and as the players were coming off the field from practice, they, the question would be like, what's your favorite Drake song? And then they would like say
Cool.
it and sing it. So
Yeah,
it shows, the personality of a player. And so, or it'd be like, or they would have a riddle and someone would have to like figure it out, and they would make fun of the people that couldn't figure it out. So it's playful, and sports and entertainment is playful at the end of the day, right? It's not, I mean, yes, winning the game is very serious.
there's some heavy stuff that happens too in the NBA. Like recently, is it Ja Morant? He got in trouble for having a gun and showing that on
Yeah,
social media.
yeah, yeah.
It can be a double-edged sword, I suppose.
Well, exactly. So there's responsibility, right, that comes with your, as an athlete or as an artist, your own personal social media platforms, and being responsible in regards to how you're perceived, because at
Yeah,
the end of the day, a lot, especially if you're a superstar in the NBA, the NFL, NHL, etc., um, you are a brand, right? Like Ja has tons of brand
I think the shoes.
sponsorships, shoes, drinks, things like that. So
Yeah.
you as an athlete or a person are a brand, and a lot of these deals will be uh there'll be a clause basically saying like you'll behave, and if not, that can be terms for terminating the agreement. Yeah, as a player,
Especially nowadays, everyone has to be very careful where they're investing their money, and
yeah,
social media is volatile. And any split second things can go awry on social media, or be perceived the wrong way.
yes.
I heard it through a grapevine kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be really careful, but you can't avoid it. I mean, if you want to market yourself, you have to use all the channels. You have to have all your sales channels open and accessible and fast.
I agree. That's why some players will hire a social media manager, which is sometimes the best way to do things. One, because they're the expert. Two, they know what is trending. They will.
They have a kill switch for his phone on their phone.
So
Right.
sometimes that's sort of the way to take if you know that you might not present yourself in the best light all the time. And then sometimes you have two accounts, right? One that's for the public fan facing, and then one that's just for you and your friends and family.
Yeah, sure.
Which, you can, and that's your business to have. And
yeah, totally. And I'm sure everyone who's out there who's a public figure has multiple
right,
ways to stay in communication with people.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm checking the chat here. I didn't see anything from anybody. How's everyone doing today? Be inclusive here. Hi, guys. Hi, Cam.
They can't unmute themselves, that's why.
Okay. Well, I'm waving to you.
I do that just for Zoom bombers, just in case. So if you have any
Zoom bomber.
questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
Thank you.
Oh, Cam asks, how will AI change things in sports and entertainment marketing management?
I think it will make marketers more efficient. I think from a marketing campaign standpoint, especially when you've got leagues that have season ticket holders or have individual game day tickets, the messaging and creative you show to a season ticket holder is very different than what you would show and say to a single game ticket purchaser or to a casual fan. And I think AI will be able to process that at a much quicker pace, where you can have multiple messages and creative out there for your different audiences and making sure there's no overlap. So I do think AI will hopefully make the marketing manager's role and everyone in marketing a little bit more efficient.
Consistent.
And
it's a machine.
Yeah.
It's a machine, it's not, there's no emotions or having a bad day or something else on your mind, or you ate the wrong thing last night, or it's a machine.
Yeah.
David has a question asking, how difficult is it to get into the sports industry?
I don't think it's difficult at all. I think, especially, well, I will say it depends on where you live. If you are, located here in the New York area, there are tons of teams. There's two of everything: two soccer, two football, two basketball, two hockey. And there's tons of venues. My entryway into sports and entertainment was through the Meadowlands Sports Complex and the old Giant Stadium. And I worked there for 2 years, and I did things from college basketball to concerts. Usher was the first concert I ever worked. I saw Dolly Parton, and I did tons of family shows and such. So that was my entryway into the industry. But my goal was always to work for a sports team. I wanted to be the first Black woman NBA commissioner at one point in time. I was very, very ambitious when I was in my 20s. So being in this area, I went to college and grad school in the New Jersey area. Being in this market allowed me sort of my pick of places where I could go to intern. When I was in college for my sophomore to senior year, I interned in the sports marketing department. They were very well connected. And so when an entry level job came about, they were like, you have to talk to Tamica. And that's how I got my first job. So depending on the market you're in, and it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be professional teams. It can be minor league teams. It can be, so G League teams, D League teams, like, consider that, put that in your consideration when you're looking to get into the sports industry. What I would say is that it's not glamorous. It's nights, weekends, holidays. I'll never forget when I was working for the Wizards. We had a game the day after Christmas, and I had come home to New Jersey to be with my family. And that time between Christmas and New Year's, it's like time doesn't exist. You're in your pajamas all day, you're eating. And I literally was crying because I had to go back to work. I was like, I don't know if this is all this cracked up to me. And so it's not a very glamorous industry, but you don't get into it because it's glamorous. I vividly remember watching football with my dad on Sundays, and just like I saw all of the fun and the community that was taking place at the games, and I was like, I want to be a part of that. Like, what is that? And obviously, as I got older and learned more, I was like, I want to be that. I want to be someone that creates experience for people that they can share with friends and family.
That's cool.
Hopefully that is helpful to Dave.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more, Professor Clanton, about the importance of internships?
Yeah, I mean, internships, I think, just provide value in regards to figuring out what you want to do and what you don't want to do, because sometimes I think, you have an idea of what something is, and then you get into it and you're like, yeah, no, I don't like that. I don't like analytics. I don't like dealing with people, whatever it may be. And so I think internships help you identify what you like and identify what you don't like. I think internships allow you to gain experience. So when you're going out for those entry level jobs, you actually have real experience. You potentially may have a portfolio of things you've worked on that you can bring to the conversation. So, I think internships are very valuable. And I think depending where you are in the country, sometimes they have to pay. Like when I was in school, I didn't get anything. And I had to pay to travel to the city on the train, subway, all of that. But I think now in certain states, you're required to work a minimum of 20 hours a week, and you get some sort of stipend, which obviously it's not paying all of the bills, but sometimes something's better than nothing. And then you start to build your network. There are people that I still talk to this day that I met when I was 22 or 21. So you start to build your network as well. So that's something else that's valuable with having an internship.
I've had job interviews and they've said it's lived experience.
Yeah.
Being able to relate and being able to really put yourself in their shoes and understand. When you start a new job and it's brand new to you, you might go in with a ton of enthusiasm just to have kind of your enthusiasm crushed a little bit. But if you kind of have an idea, I mean, I hate to be like kind of a pessimist, but if you have an idea of what you're looking at, what you're stepping into, you can approach it with a little more wisdom.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I can see that definitely being a great thing. Looking at
a question from David. How much opportunity is there to work directly with athletes?
I think there's tons of opportunities. There's tons of sports agencies that represent athletes. I think there are athletes that, are looking for representation. So it's sort of two parts, right? There is the sports agent, which usually is a licensed lawyer that negotiates the actual contract with the team. But you're seeing a lot lately is sort of marketing agents branding agents that are the ones that are doing the brand partnership deals with a lot of these athletes. And you know, there's tons, I've seen tons of opportunity to work with athletes. You're probably better off going to like a CAA or an IMG. LeBron James has an agency that is escaping me right now. But probably going to, you know, sort of get your foot in the door that way. And then, you know, potentially like spinning off and creating your own player agency.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be really cool. A lot of work.
Yeah.
You build up a reputation. If you get anyone who's worth anything, you know, probably have to build up a good reputation to do that.
Yeah. And it's a relationship, you know, business, right?
Absolutely.
Really
Yeah.
important.
It's like I've been in a lot of bands in my former years, and some bands traveling and touring a little bit, and I definitely learned that it's kind of like I want to say like a bro deal, like you know somebody and they're gonna sort of help you out and hook you up, and you know it's networking really what it is.
But what I would say to that though is, you know, y- it's great to want to bring your friends and family along, but they need to know what they're doing. Like, love my brother, but if I was an athlete, I would not want him doing my marketing deals.
No, no, no.
Because he doesn't have the skill set. No shade to him. He just doesn't have the skill set, right? And so it's super important in regards to the relationships that these people have the skill sets, they have the expertise, they have the knowledge to do the job they're saying they're doing, and not just trying to hold on to your coattails and come along for the ride. Because it's,
Some people do
you
that.
know, it looks glamorous on TV, right? You know, there's a lot of lights and it looks sexy and ooh, yeah, but it's again, nights, weekends, holidays, getting an emergency call at 2 o'clock in the morning because the player had an incident and we gotta, you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot.
Yeah.
So despite the hardships, what do you find most rewarding about the role?
I always get excited and I'm super proud when me and the team have worked on a marketing campaign and it's now live and people are reacting to it. And so whether it's a out of home banner or a social campaign that's live and people are, you know, responding to it, that's always my sort of like, yeah, we did it proud moment. On the entertainment side, it's usually coming to opening night. So you've obviously been working longer than that, but the campaign has probably been out for 6 to 8 weeks promoting the opening of the Christmas Spectacular or whatever, and you make it to opening night and like all of your hard work has helped get all of these people in the seats to see your great 90-minute show. So that's always my most happiest and proudest moment.
I was gonna say it's like pride, like host's pride. You're the host. You help bring this to them, and they
Yeah.
feel pride
That's
from
great.
it. Hospitality, and
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Pam asks, can you talk more about when a campaign failed? And what does that feel like? Great question.
Yeah. It is very it's defeating. I would say, excuse me, there was a time I was working for an entertainment company and we were like 2 weeks out from opening night and the ownership had decided that the show was not good enough to open when it was going to open, and so they were pushing it, but it meant that we had to stop all of our marketing efforts. And we had some major marketing assets around New York City. And so in a day, we had to work to pull it down. And we were successful in getting it all down. But it was you felt disappointed and like that you failed because you had put all your effort driving people to come to a show to open in 2 weeks, and then now it was, so the campaign didn't fails, so to speak. It was more management felt like the actual product wasn't up to par. And so that was sort of sad. I would say, so yeah, that's what I would say.
Must be kind of hard if you have to make that phone call to that guy that you promised work to, that he has to wait another month, and how is he going to take that? And hopefully you have a good professional relationship with someone who can say, oh, well, okay, we're good,
A lot of make goods, I think, were offered.
Yeah.
A lot of
IOUs, yeah.
Mhm. I always like to think about, when I'm teaching, failure as an opportunity to learn. Sometimes we learn a lot more from our failures than we do from our successes. So,
yeah, I say I either win or I learn. And I think the more you embrace failing and knowing and seeing it as an opportunity to learn and grow, the more I think you're willing to fail. I think sometimes society is like, doesn't look fondly on failures, but failures is necessary for growth. And it's important. And so I've also heard fail fast. Like, let's find out that it doesn't work so we can recalculate, we can figure out something else. And I like that approach sometimes, because I think, especially in marketing, and especially in marketing in like high-end brands, everything has to be perfect, which is great, but sometimes you can't experiment. And with technology and social media, there has to be a space where you can be nimble enough to fail and it not be detrimental to the bottom line, because at the end of the day, these are a lot of for-profit companies. But there has to be space to try something. And if it works, great. If not, what do we learn from it? Let's apply it to the next thing.
Kelly has a question, but I wanted to follow up on your statement there, particularly about social media. How does social media kind of impact the way that business is done in this field? And also, if a mistake is made and it's out there, there's no retrieving it back from the internet. Once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you're not getting it back in. So can you talk a little bit more about the role of social media and how social media has changed the field over time?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I think, social media allows people, fans, super fans, casual fans, to go behind the scenes to see sort of how the donuts are made, so to speak. And so it brings people up close and personal, which is great. People love that behind the scenes content, like they love it. But comes great responsibility. So you want to have a great social media team. You want to invest in it. So social media 10 years ago was sort of free, right? And no one really knew what they were doing and such. And now we've got influencers, it's been monetized and such, but sometimes brands will not do the proper investment into their social media team as they should. And you can clearly see when a team has a good social media team and they've invested in it, because you've got good quality video, you have good quality photos, you have great content calendar and content every day or every week. And so really recognizing that this is another marketing tactic. It's another channel for you to either tell your brand story, it's to give awareness for tickets, but it's not a ticket driver. And a lot of times that's like a a butting head point with people, because they're like, just put it up on Facebook or on Instagram. And you're like, well, no, it doesn't go with the story we're telling, and people are not going to buy tickets off of that. So there's that. And then can you repeat the last part of your question?
Sure, just the idea of if you put out a marketing campaign or something goes wrong and the failures involved, there's no way to kind of retrieve that back from that open space of.
Right. And so with that, you have to be able to and so usually the social media team will work closely with communications team, so that if something does happen, if there's a crisis, if there's an accident or whatever, the communications team is synced up to have prepared messaging to put out. I do think people give grace to things on social media. So, for example, I think people, because of the space, because things move so quickly, that something happened one moment, you post it. I think if you acknowledge like, hey, we made a mistake, this is where we stand and things like that, people will give grace. And it happens all the time. And sometimes you can just delete the post and keep it moving. And then there's sometimes where you have to acknowledge we made an error. And this is how we're going to address it moving forward. But
Right.
it's back to that, what I said before about being nimble, or, you know, as a marketer, you need to be nimble. You know, there's a trend one day, hopefully you can jump in on it and ride the wave. Now, if that trend switches, then you gotta, okay, we're not gonna do that trend anymore. And so you have to be quick, fast, and nimble, confident in your decision making within that moment, and know that with all of the information you have at that time, you're making the right decision.
Great. Yeah, Darisha said, great point. In marketing, a solid team has a major impact on the way a brand is pushed. And that those team decisions are really pivotal. I think so. I think maybe you could talk a little bit. I want to get to Kelly's question, but maybe later we could talk more about the team dynamic in particular in sports and entertainment marketing. David also commented, like, when someone tweeted that Aaron Judge was signing with the San Francisco Giants, like,
yeah,
how do you stop that storm once it's out? Yeah.
And then the thing is you can't sometimes, but sometimes you also, like, sometimes I'm like, take a beat. Is this from a credible source? Has it been confirmed? Like sometimes, you know, a lot of news outlets, or outlets that consider themselves news, you know, they want to be the first one to say, I said it first. But sometimes it's like, no. It's better to be right than the first. Be first and wrong, loud and wrong.
That's great. I want to get to Kelly's question. She said, have you ever had to rebuild a brand for an athlete or a team after some type of scandal? And if so, what makes it different than any other marketing that you've done in the field?
So I think the closest thing would be the Washington Wizards. So when I came on board, it was after Gilbert Arenas had been there, and he was a very popular player that had a incident with another player, and the team and them split ways. And so with new ownership, you know, they wanted a new look and feel. And so we rebranded, you know, their whole brand identity, from logo to colors to everything, new uniforms, things like that. And anytime you do a rebrand, I've done a rebrand twice in my career. It is a very, very heavy lift that usually will take place over, you know, 12 to 16 months, especially if you're an established brand, and, you know, fans and know you one way, and then you're like, hey, we're the same team, but we have a new look and feel. And so it's a heavy lift, but you have to have good reasoning for doing what you're doing, right? It's going to add value to what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go. That's the reasoning for our rebrand. Or like, we are growing as a company and acquiring more brands, and so it makes sense for us to rebrand to make sure we're representing all of the companies. So, you know, anytime a brand wants to do a rebrand, they have to ask themselves, like, why are we doing this? Will it pay off? What's the end goal?
And how do you communicate that to your consumer?
Yeah, and brands do it numerous ways. Like, if you have a CEO that's sort of public facing, this is not sports and entertainment, but like, I would say a good amount of people know about Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan. So if JP Morgan Chase were to do a rebrand, a letter potentially could come from them. I think someone in the chat just said something about the Commanders. Right, which I believe they sort of crowdsourced their name. And every time I hear the name, I'm always like, who is that team? Like, it always takes me a step. It always takes me a beat to remember, like, oh yeah, that's the Washington team. But again,
Cleveland did that too.
Right. Yeah.
They just did that recently too, around the same time, I think.
Right. The baseball team, right? Like, they're no longer.
Indians, yeah.
And I was like, Wait,
I don't even know what they're called
happened?
anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called either, but they're
My
not.
family's from Ohio. I don't even know.
Oh,
I'm
so David's saying the Guardians.
Guardians.
I feel like it had to happen during like the height of COVID, but I mean, I'm tapped into sports to know enough what's going on in like each of the leagues. And I was like, when did this happen? But when you have established teams like the Commanders and like the Guardians, it is going to take a while, like years, for people to start recognizing them, identifying them, and calling them by their new name.
Unless they win a championship.
Well, I mean, that's the silver bullet, though. Winning cures all.
Yes.
Winning cures all.
But getting your message across to people, I sort of have a question off my head. Getting your message across to people, whether you're rebranding or you're just saying your message, that's always been there. It's always hasn't changed. With, like you even saying, crowdsourcing and with social media, I feel like knowledge and information is much more available than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
I think tons of information is available. I think how in which you interpret the information is the key, right? Like tons of information's out there, but how do you know how to to dissect the information?
And
I think
make sure the masses can do that too.
Yeah. And there's something very early on in my career,
Yeah.
a manager probably said to me, Tamica, we're talking to the lowest common denominator. Like,
Yep.
keep it short, sweet, and if they got to think too hard, you got to try it.
My dad's an antique dealer. He sold in New York City for almost 40 years, 25th Street, outside Market. I used to work with him there. And he used to tell me the wonderful thing about New York City is there's always someone above you and there's always someone below you. You have to be able to get on everybody's level. You have to appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
And knowing how to do that, it's
Yeah.
one thing to say.
That is, I would say though, that can be a double-edged sword, because there are certain brands that are for a particular audience. So sometimes you can't serve two masters, right? So obviously if you have something, I think sports is very broad.
Yes.
But if you go into specific things like a musical artist that is of a specific genre, they're going to have a certain audience. And so you need to tailor your messaging creative for that audience, because that audience is going to resonate. It's going to resonate with that audience. But I think general, and because sports is so wide, I do think you can cater to more people, which is, that's the beauty of it, bringing all these people together to, celebrate cheering for their favorite team.
It's healthy competition.
Yeah.
We like competition. People like competition, as long as it's for the most part.
Right.
Professor Clanton, would you talk a little bit more about mentorship in the field and how students can potentially connect with a mentor, best practices?
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage students to start building their LinkedIn profile. And, from there, it'll allow you to see the various people that are within the sports and entertainment industry. And I think a lot of people, mid-level to senior execs, are open to having informationals with people that are looking to get into the industry. And, based off of that and developing relationships, you can ask someone to be to be your mentor. I think joining organizations, whether it be within the school setting or outside within sports and entertainment, that's a great way to network. It's a great way to learn about jobs. It's a great way to, take leadership courses or seminars or workshops. But it's just all connecting with like-minded people, especially as you're in college or graduating and looking to land that first to second job outside of college.
Pam asked, is there a team you think that has a great marketing team or does really well on social media?
I would say, I think the Dallas Mavericks. Um, there's, at least from a TikTok perspective, and I can't believe I'm saying this as a Dallas fan, but the Philadelphia Eagles, their social content was really, really good this season. So, I can take my fandom out of the equation, and from like as a marketing perspective, putting my marketing hat on, I felt like the Mavericks did a really, I mean, they had their owner Mark Cuban involved in some stuff, and I think also Mark Cuban is a very public owner, and I think that's fun. But I enjoyed the Eagles content. Dallas Cowboys, their socials pretty good as well. So I think those are the three teams. So Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Cowboys, and Philadelphia Eagles. Their content was really good this season.
Hmm.
I know. Sorry, Sam. I didn't say Boston.
No, it's okay.
It hasn't come across my feed in Instagram or TikTok or Twitter.
It's okay.
It might come across it now that I've talked about them.
You're saying words I don't even know about, so I'm just.
We have about 5 minutes to go, so I think maybe we could have some closing points for students in particular, maybe any advice that you'd give to help our business or other students make the most of their business education journey, things that they can do while they're here with us at SPS, if they're interested in joining this field or they're approaching graduation.
I think network, super important to network, super important for internships, and do things that you're not considering, because you don't want to be, for lack of a better word, a one-trick pony. You want to diversify your portfolio. So you want to know, you want to understand how ticket sales works. You want to understand how ops works. You want to understand how the various departments work, because the one that has a good sense, you don't need to know the ins and outs, but if you have a general sense of it, it will allow you to see the bigger picture. And those that can see the bigger picture are those that can excel to that executive level. To those that are graduating, congratulations. I hope you see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's such a huge milestone. I would say take some time off to celebrate, to take a nap. And then, you get out there, and don't be discouraged if your first or second job isn't where you want to be. You're gaining experience, you're building your network. And that's super important. Just know that they're all building blocks. So if your end goal is to be president of a sports team, just make sure you're picking roles that help lead you to that end goal, and don't be discouraged. And it goes fast. Like, I look back on my 15+ year career, and I'm like, gosh, I remember when I was like working night games or working a concert, and like it goes fast. And so try to enjoy it as you make your way to where you want to be.
Great. Tarisha has one, we'll take one final comment from the audience, asking, can the same techniques that we've discussed here in reference to sports be used for the music/entertainment industry?
Absolutely, 100%. They're very alike in many ways, in regards to how you market them, identifying your audience, messaging, creative, and things like that. So instead of marketing a league or a team, you're marketing an artist or a band, but it's the same way. And I've had the opportunity to work on the venue side and like market the venue, so draw audiences of all different types to come to the venue to see the various entertainment and sports activities that were taking place. And all of everything, I think that was said today can be interchangeable, whether it's sports or entertainment.
Sam, do you have any final comments or questions before we end the session?
Not right now. No, it's really great. I just, I think that the same techniques can span more than just music and entertainment. And I mean, sounds pretty one-on-one selling to your audience, and, knowing what your market is,
Right.
learning your market. And everyone has a niche, you know, and a wider niche is you can do a lot more with, you know. It's pretty
Great.
cool.
Well, thank you both so much for being our panelists for tonight's session. This was such a wonderful conversation. I put some information in the chat about MELO's next event, which is our ideation fair happening on April 19th. You can submit your business idea and potentially win a prize. If you're not comfortable doing that, you can attend just as a participant. We welcome all to attend. It'll be held on Zoom on April 19th. And if you have any ideas about other fields or topics that you'd like for us to discuss in these Conversations for Success series, feel free to reach out to me and let me know. I'm putting my email in the chat, and we'd be happy to entertain those ideas. We want to keep this Conversations for Success series going, and we welcome your feedback about different fields or topics that you'd like to hear from us about.
Awesome.
Well, thank you all so much for attending. I'll be sending out the recording via the student forum. I will also put it on our business LinkedIn page as well. And I wish everyone a wonderful evening. Thank you all so much.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.
Take care.
Wonderful. Thank you.